Hey there, it's Marley Major. Before we dig in, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell because you definitely don't want to miss another glorious disaster here on Every Day's a Train Wreck. Because missing an episode, now that would be a train wreck. Let's get to it. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Every Day's a Train Wreck. I'm your host, Marley Major, and I have a really fun pop-up guest for you named Olivia Sammons, like the fish. Now, this is kind of a funny story, and Olivia is probably wondering why she's on the podcast. Well, she wondered that before, and I told her I didn't care. I was going to have her on, and I would explain when we were on the podcast. So, Olivia is part of, I guess it's called Founders Podcast?
Founders Future.
Founders Future. And I'm going to let her talk in a second, but this is going to be kind of part of it. So I am always fascinated by people who do something really well, okay? And like clockwork. And so this woman reached out to me on LinkedIn and was like, hey, we'd love to feature you on the podcast, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay. And I checked it out and it was legit. And then I thought, this is really interesting. She's like, okay, great. And then sent the link and it was totally seamless. And then I get this link to the podcast. And then guess what? Lo and behold, Miss Olivia is interviewing me and she is freaking polished and on it. And, you get the 9,000 reminders about the podcast and the whole thing. And then I say, hey, listen, I want to interview you. She's like, no, like I'm the one that like she does interview about, I want to talk about sales. I want to talk about all these things because then guess what? After I do the podcast, then they follow up with me of how to close me and can they make an appointment for their closers.io stuff. And I was like, sure. So basically that was kind of a condition of me having on the podcast what I was going to do this. So guess what? They freaking closed me. And I am now working with their company. So I want to go back now and get the dirt from Miss Olivia because she's got a great backstory. Okay. So Olivia, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome to my monologue, Olivia. So, okay, Olivia, we started chatting and I hit it off. Well, at least I hit it off with you like a house on fire. Now, I am fascinated with sales processes. And especially since now, then I signed up for my, kind of intro call and all this stuff. And you have all these questionnaires and everything is just so like processized. I don't know what to say it. And obviously it's the same way with how you guys have your podcast. So tell me a little bit about how you came to founders/closers and tell us a little bit about that because their story is freaking amazing. I mean, it's like $30 million in 10 minutes they did. So fill us in.
Yeah, it was actually $30 million in 5 minutes just to.
Good. Somebody who can take my snark and give it right back. Yeah. Okay.
So closers.io is obviously a big sales company, big sales recruitment company, amazing company. Cole Gordon, honestly, one of the best companies I've ever worked for. Amazing people. And it's very systematized, very organized. And if you have that kind of brain, it's an atmosphere you can very much thrive in because that's the kind of person they want you to be. I kind of stumbled across them and I'd been placed into a few roles. Obviously, now being a client, we help other people scale. So
yep.
Part of that is implementing part of the sales team. So that's how I come through them. And then the option come up to host the podcast. I never really done anything like it before, but it very much suited me. It's very nice. It's very quick conversations and just being very customer service and just seeing how you can really help people on the other end of it as well.
Being an interviewer and being quick is not easy. And you are bam, bam, bam. I mean, they sent me the link, to do your podcast and it was like, okay, you've got X amount of time and you freaking nailed it. I mean, it was definitely within that amount of time. And I was like, how? Is this some business executive that has so much experience with business that you can just talk about whatever? No, it's just, you just go down your line and knock it out. Well, first of all, how many people do you interview a week cause you're one of their podcast hosts, right? Or do you do all of them for them?
No, there's a few of us that rotate it round. There's a few of us that kind of take part. I probably do about 20, 25 a week. So once you kind of have a bit of practice in the conversation, you learn a flow. Naturally, if you was going to, I don't know if you've ever worked in hospitality, Marley, but if you take what to do, I know it'd be your background. So you take an order, you have a step. Someone asks if you want a steak, what's your next question? How do you want it cooked?
Yeah,
or
exactly.
Do you want a sauce? So you kind of go through the processes like you actually would in any step. And then from there, it's just adjusting to people's answers. But if you have the common flow, Like
Yeah.
when you're taking an order, you can just
Yep.
adjust it to the same process.
Okay, which is fascinating. And the reason I'm spending time on this is because so many entrepreneurs get this wrong. Like we all think in our brains, no matter how I think, no matter how big our big businesses are, we say to ourselves, "Oh, my business is different. It's unique. I couldn't have this sales process. I couldn't have," but really at the end of the day, yeah, you could. It doesn't, I mean, it's whether you're taking an order at McDonald's, right? I mean, it's kind of the same framework as like a high-end steak restaurant. It's going to be, you have slightly more steps, but there's still an order. I mean, you don't, if you're at McDonald's, you don't start with, "Thank you for coming." I mean, everything is like basically some version of, "What can I get for you?" And then, as you say, you take the steps down from there. Now, did they pick you to be one of the podcast hosts? Like, how did they suss that out of you?
So when you see on the CV, I suppose I'd come out as an appointment setter, obviously, and then move through and kind of progress from there. So that's initially why I reached out to closers. The podcast opportunity just came up and it just was a good fit. And honestly, Marley, my journey on the podcast probably wasn't as clean as it seems. Like, it took me a long time to really adjust to it, to get used to the flow, to get used to the conversation. As much as I know a lot about business, mine's more in like a mum and papa sense, not so much in a let's help you scale to 1 million and plus. Like, I know about restaurants, I know about hospitality. So I know how business works, I know how brain works. You just put the two together and it you just get naturally in the flow. I
Okay,
think
now
kind of
go
stood
on.
out for me personally, more so my character on
Mhm,
the podcast. I'm very curious naturally. So I feel
mhm.
interviewing people is a very nice approach. Also, I feel like I like to think I'm a very easy person to talk to and I'm a very
You
good
are.
listener. And I'm a very good listener that can then relay that back information. So I think you put all those three things together. Yes, you have a great host. Yes, you have a great waitress. And yes, you have a great salesperson because they all need the same key qualities, in my opinion.
But Olivia, there's a speed factor. I mean, you have a speed processing factor in your brain that few people, I mean, there are very few people that I can talk to who A, talk quickly enough for me, and B, can talk faster than I do and actually make sense. I mean, I'm not talking drunken gibberish, right? And you can do that. I mean, so when you're saying, "Oh, it wasn't quite as smooth," I mean, how long have you been hosting these podcasts?
I started off last March, 9 months, 10 months ago now, nearly coming up to a year. I did it for a couple of weeks. I wasn't very good at it. And then kind of come off it, spend a long time listening to the podcast, really absorbing that information, absorbing what I needed to know. And then I just hop back on it again. And after you do so many repetitions,
Yeah.
you just do come naturally. I think again, I can't speak for everybody, and I really appreciate how nice you are about me, but I think it's just my brain. I have ADHD. I'm from London. Everything you do is
Okay,
half
that's why.
fast paced. It's
Okay.
just me
So
as a
so
character. It's not something you can learn, unfortunately. Maybe you can. You can teach
well,
people.
maybe you can. Yeah, but I'm the same way. I have ADHD. Everybody thinks I'm from New York. I'm not, but I might as well be because it's like bam bam. Yeah, it's like my brain doesn't go at another speed.
No
Now,
grace.
what yeah, okay, so what I'm convinced there's something too about ADHD and sales
100.
and just that whole like does your founder talk at all about that or no?
Not so much, and it's not so much spoken about in the culture. Obviously, I've mentioned it on the podcast several times. I know,
Yeah.
I think I know a lot of my colleagues. I know several of my
Mhm.
colleagues have it, and I know they know I have it. But I think it's just more of a neurodivergent thing. I think it's
Mhm.
just you'll know yourself. You have this
Yep.
like feeling you get with people. Like I knew before
Mhm.
you interviewed ADHD, you had ADHD, but you learn to read people very well. I also masked a lot growing up, and now I only discovered it when I was 27. I'm now 30, just for context. So it's I masked a lot growing up, so I got used to having a lot of conversations with people. I got used to having a lot of conversations with different person to who I am, and just very much blending into the background of a conversation. And sales is pretty much that. It's understanding people, it's reading their character, it's judging how you can relay yourself to them and mimicking their
By the
behavior.
way, good sales has those characteristics. Most people like when you're saying blending in, a lot of times people don't think of that as a salesperson. Now, okay, this is fascinating to me. This whole because obviously neurodivergence and ADHD and all that, it's a hot, it's a hot topic these days, and I think it's going to come to the point where everybody under the sun. I mean, well, it's already coming to the point where everybody has ADD and ADHD, and now everybody's neurodivergent, et cetera, et cetera. But why do you think? Because I definitely, whether I masked it or well, I didn't find out till I was like in oh my gosh, probably 45 or something that I had it. And it was only because one of my kids was diagnosed with it. So how did you find out you had it like at 27?
One of my best friends got diagnosed and she was like, Olivia, you're definitely one of us. Go and have a look. Okay.
You're one of us. You're one of
Yeah,
us.
I'm ADD, so I'm a little bit of a mix of the two. But it was just essentially that. And I didn't really understand myself growing up. Marley, if you'd met me when I was 16, I probably would
Yeah.
have said hello to you in the street. I was a very quiet
Why? What do you mean?
I just was a very quiet person. I used to keep myself to myself. I used to wear a hat, have a hood up 24/7. I didn't know how to interact with the world. I didn't understand why I was so different in the way that I was thinking or behaving. And it was just easier to kind of shelter that from people. And then ADHD gave me the confidence to be myself. It was like, okay, you can take this down. Now I understand why I think differently. Now I understand why I do
So
this.
So do you, because I say that, I mean, I'm like undiagnosed Asperger's. I'm convinced that there's something else like in my spectrum besides just ADHD, because like you're saying, there's certain parts of your brain, you're just like, gosh, why does everybody else seem to sort of flow along in the world, right? And like can be in high school and have normal conversations with people and quote be cool and all that stuff. And I just felt like the whole time I just was one step away from putting my foot in my mouth.
Yeah.
And but the shyness piece, I can't, that just blows my mind. So how do you go from being shy to being like was it just the diagnosis? You're like, oh, now I feel better because I feel validated?
I think it just gave me a little bit of a spring in my step. Maybe the validation, yeah, for myself. It was nothing else anyone did. It just helped me come out of my shell. It was more like, okay, I understand why I'm like this. I can say what I want. I don't have to be scared. Because it was like a
Got it.
syndrome. It was like I offended people. I said things wrong. I was either too aggressive or like too reserved. Like I just could never kind of put my foot right. So I just found it better to just kind of pull myself away. But I'm still very much introverted. Obviously, you've only known me on podcast or through Zoom. I'm still a very calm, relaxed, very quiet person. I just have that tendency to be able to talk to everybody in the world and speak when I want to speak. I have that ability to switch on and off.
Crazy to me is how can you go from the speed at which you speak and your brain obviously is firing to when you say you're calm? Like, is there somebody in your world that can actually send me a testimonial to say you're calm? Because that's really hard for me to believe.
I'll get my best friend to send you over. I actually live with her, so she'll be a good one. She'll send you over a testimonial. And when I say calm, my brain is still going. I just don't
Yeah.
speak. I just don't. If I haven't got the need to speak, I'm not the
Yeah.
person that will speak.
Okay, but do you like chew your nails? I mean, do you do something to get this? No. Well, you do work out a lot, right?
I work out pretty much every day, and I have done since I was young. I was a professional footballer until I was 27.
And for those of us in the US, that's soccer.
Apologies,
So,
yes.
but oh, no, no apologies. That's why I love freaking people from the UK. I could just talk to you about like watching the freaking paint go on the wall. When did you start playing football/soccer?
When I was probably around 8, and then I joined my first women's team, so my first ladies team when I was 14. Up until then, I was playing with boys, like, just in school teams or whatever it was at the
But
time.
you were probably good from the get-go.
I was okay, and I was never the best player in the world. Again,
Yeah.
it kinda matched my personality, like, I was the kind of player that you would notice when I wasn't playing more than when I was playing, if that makes
What does
sense.
that mean? Why? What do you
So
mean you'd notice?
so, for example, if you I don't know, I can't relate to a sport. Do you watch soccer at all?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, like,
So
yeah,
if you
it's a
for
good
example, like, you have Cristiano Ronaldo, you have Messi, you have David Beckham. You notice
Mhm.
when these players are on the pitch, you're like, "Oh, Ronaldo's doing his stuff." But
Right.
you have, like, a more reserved player, like, for example, I don't know if you know Michael Carrick
Okay.
or
Okay.
players like this who do a lot, but no one sees them because they're not
Got it.
doing a lot,
So
but they're
you're
doing
the covert ops of football.
I'm the ops, I'm the back end system.
You're
I
the
just do everything and then leave. Yeah.
you're the Russian spy. You're the honey trapper.
Yeah, I used to get called Roadrunner.
Okay, now it's starting to make sense. Okay, and sports is obviously competitive. You didn't get to where you were because you weren't competitive. So that I think translates to sales, right? Because it's like being in competition for anything, whether it's being in competition with yourself, etc. And how do you think this company decides? Because I know that the I don't even know what are the words when they say like the setter, the closer, all these different words that they were using even while I was having my like intake interview, whatever. I'm just like, oh my God, it's literally everybody, as you said to me before, has a position, right? Like, what are those sales positions kind of? Like you have the woman who reaches out via LinkedIn, right? What
Yeah.
do you call that?
So
That's the
for us,
prospector?
if you call it prospector, you can call it a lead generation specialist, however you want to do it, appointment setter. There's several words for it, but it is everyone has their place, so you pass it through again like you would in a team. You wouldn't put your
Mhm.
goal on the front end because that's not what they're good at, so you keep them in
Right.
goal. You keep your closer behind because that's what he's good at. That's where he's best, and then you have the setters in between that kind of nurture everything through, and then the
Yeah.
closer on the end of that. So it's just It's coming through.
But see, I don't know why when you explain it, it makes sales so much easier to understand, but it really does because I can't tell you how many times like entrepreneurs or how many conversations I've had with coaching clients or whatever, where they're just totally overwhelmed by the sales process. But it really is about like the leads coming in or more importantly, like your lead generator, your setter, she's going out prospecting, right? I mean, she was like actively, how many of the, I mean, if you could just guess, because you might not know the answer, but how many people come to you and say, "Hey, I want to be on the podcast"? Not you necessarily, but your company versus you guys going out and getting people.
Very rare. We've had a few that have reached out.
Interesting. Otherwise, you're dialing for dollars. So you're searching LinkedIn profiles.
Yeah, having a lead gen is like running ads, but more direct. It's outreach. It's just cold outreach. So you're just hitting people with messages. If they don't want to come, they don't want to come. That's up to them.
I mean, well, the lead gen people to me, they have a little bit of the sales component in them because they probably have quotas or whatever. But the person who's nurturing it all the way, like to get to you, that's a different skill set to me.
Fully.
I
That's a
mean,
very skill set.
like that fall, like constant follow up and like continuously nurturing it through, like it makes me lose my mind.
That for me, so I've done that role before for several companies,
Mhm.
whether it's inbound, outbound, whatever it may be. That's kind of where I lie. That's my like specialty rather than actual speaking, because you do have to be quick. You have to be on the ball. You have to be very organized as well, because you send like, for example, for some people, like when I was doing, cold, like for previous offers I'd worked on before I hosted the podcast, like I was sending near enough 400 text messages a day, 500 text messages a day.
What?
Yeah, and then you do follow-up sequence on top of that, then you do cold calling doors, like you're on calls all day long. So you get used to having very, very good systems that you can apply to everything. So like for me, when people talk about sales and they say it's all sleazy and whatever, and what you're saying there, all the jargon that people use, sales is very easy. It's a very easy process. It's just organization and structure. And closers, that's how we teach people. You will know yourself, it's organization and structure.
I am okay. So you are, I'm still stuck at you sending 400 texts a day.
Yeah.
So how did you decide on the 400 people you're going to text? Like did they teach you to come up with a profile and then you just create the list and you just start hammering them?
Yeah, or like most people have a CRM. So you bring in leads and you have a CRM and you just message through a CRM. That's a very easy way of doing it.
Yeah.
Another one is prospecting. Yeah. So you go out and filter through, find emails, find numbers. And then once you've got their number, you
Yeah.
can just keep texting it.
Start dialing for dollars.
Don't get me wrong. I understand on the other side of for sales, like I don't like being sold to, so I get it. But in my point of view, sales is only motivation. If you have something where you can actually help someone with, you should
Mhm.
do your utmost to help them with that problem. If they want to say no, they feel free to say no at any point, and I will stop texting them, I will stop harassing them, or whatever else.
Right.
If you can actually solve their problem and you can do it in a way that you know will benefit them,
Mhm. Mhm.
I think the motivation is there to just carry on doing what you're doing
How
sometimes.
different do you think the setters, the appointment setters and stuff, how different do you think their processes or styles are from each other? Because obviously you have a framework, right? But then do you think like they still have very much their own way of doing things or do you think it's pretty regimented?
I think it's very regimented in the sense of the structure. So, like you would, if you was to write an essay or you was to write an English paper, you'd set out in the right structure. But everyone has their own personalities, their own tweaks they like to put on it. So you have
Right.
to spin it to suit you as well. Like
Right.
I'm very kind of chilled, relaxed, soft character, but I also speak very fast, very clearly, whatever. Some other
Yeah.
people are not. They're very much like in your face, blah, 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 and that suits their style. So again, the same structure throughout, but
Yeah.
just implementing bits of yourself to help that authenticity as well.
Okay, if you send 400 texts, how many responses do you expect to get?
Oh, that depends on everything. The offer, the time that you send the text messages, the time of year. There's so many dependables on that.
Okay, but let's say like I want to make people feel better. That's why I'm saying this. Okay. Because I think if people send out 400, they think like, oh my gosh, if I don't get 200 back, I'm doing something wrong. And that's not right. Right.
You probably average around 60 or 70, 80 back.
Got it. Assuming you've got a good text going out.
Yeah. And it's a
Yeah.
hot offer depending how long the leads have been around and stuff as well, how long you've done your prospecting, if you've reached out before, if they've responded before. But
Right.
you would be averaging around like 60 or 70 replies, hopefully.
And then when you get those 60 or 70 replies, you're not sitting there going, okay, now what am I going to do? You have the next step like ready to just hit them with.
Yeah. I have everything on templates. So my personal progress, so like if you look through my my vast history on my laptop, I just have loads of note pages of text message I've sent people that I can then tweak, mess around with a little bit, and then you just implement, copy and paste. So you're always trying to be as quick as possible.
Because would you say that's your number one tip for how to sell is be well, not
Yeah,
number one, maybe, but it's
not
about speed these days, right?
I mean speed, but I'm talking in terms of response. So, for
Yeah,
example, I know we had a bit of kind of issues connecting earlier on today. I missed your email by about 10 minutes, and then I phone you. For me,
right.
that's rudeness. If I'm not responding to somebody and I'm not there when they're active, I'm not doing my job very well. So I have to be there and wanting responses, replying to responses within about 10 seconds as well, just
Oh,
so you have
wow, okay.
full experience. You've got to involve customer service with it. You've got to be
Yeah,
when they're active. You've got to
yeah,
think of the prospect shoes, whoever you're reaching out to. Like, I used to sell houses in the south of Spain, and we'd sell houses
yeah,
for like 2 million plus. But these
yeah,
are very busy people. So you'd be WhatsApping them at 9:30 at night. But I wanna get
yeah.
to them when they're on their phones. That's not their job to respond to me. My job is to get to them when they're on their phone.
Ah. Okay, well, speaking of jobs, I promised you would get out on your hard stop, and I'm gonna keep my promise. But one thing I'm gonna make you do is come back and do this again because I could talk to you all day long. So, Olivia, how can people find you?
I suppose LinkedIn's the best place, like everyone else, LinkedIn, Olivia
Okay.
Sammons.
Olivia Sammons. Okay, so you guys, this was a quick convo, but one that should supercharge your sales techniques. And Olivia, I'm going to have you back. But you guys, thank you for listening and make sure to send this to a small business owner who needs it because these are great tips. And if they need extra help, guess what? Go to closers.io. Olivia will interview them for the podcast and then close them. Okay. So this is Marley. Thank you so much. Make sure to subscribe, like, comment, tell a friend, and you can find me at The Profit Goddess. Have a good one. Bye bye.